Hello everyone, today I want to show you how to make this triple row goddess macrame ring, and this is what it can look like. So you have this really nice crossover section with your beads and the cord, gives a really nice effect, and then you have a ring band all the way around. It's nice and comfortable to wear. So it's a pretty easy one to make as well, so if you want to learn how to do it, then stay tuned. So these are the materials that we're going to need. Now first of all here I have some s-lon cord, and it's a 0.9mm thickness, and I'm just working with this really nice deep purple colour. And then here I have the beads that I'm going to be using. These are 3mm round metal spacer beads, just in a copper, though the copper and the purple would be really nice together. All you have to make sure of is that whatever cord you're using will go through whatever beads you're using, so the holes in the beads are large enough for the cord. So let's get it all together and let's get started. So then the lengths of cord that we'll need is first of all 3 lengths here of about 40 centimeters each, and these are going to be the holding cords for the ring. And then we also need 2 lengths for our working cords here of about 50 centimeters each. So cut these cords ready. So what I've then done here is I've taken my mini macrame board that I'm going to be working on. It's really handy because it has these slots. And then I've taken my 3 lengths of holding cord, put them all in the same slot up here and just fastened them, and also in the same slot down at the bottom. And then as for the 2 working cords, I've just taken them, put them in the same slot, but what I've done is I've left a little bit of tail on the other end, because we just need to have a bit extra to work with once we've done the main piece here, so it's going to help us adjust the size of the ring. So have it like this, and then we need to start making some knots. So I'm just going to start out here by making some square knots. So I take my left one over the cords in the middle, and then I take my right one over that, like this, and then underneath everything in the middle, and up through the loop. So there we go, that's the first half of your square knot. Then we tighten this just where we want to start out work here. And then we need to make the other half of the square knot to fasten it in place as well. I bring now my right one over my holding cords, my left one goes over that and underneath everything in the middle and up through the loop. And then just tighten the first bit a little bit, and then tighten the second half of the square knot. And then there you have your very first square knot. So I'm just going to be making a couple of these. And if you're not too familiar with macrame knots, I do have a tutorial where I go through basic macrame knots that might be helpful. I'm going to put a link to that in the description box below, so you can have a look at that if you need to. So I'm just going to make about 3 here to start off with, and then that's then the point where I want to start adding in my beads. So this is just to begin with. We're going to make some more knots the other way to kind of complete the ring band later on, but I've now gotten to the point here when I want to start adding some beads as well. So I'm then just going to release the holding cords from the bottom of my board here. So these ones, because it's these 3 holding cords, all 3 of them, that I now want to add some beads onto. So then what you'll find is on the 3 holding cords here, you'll probably see that they're kind of naturally finding their own way. You're going to have one that's naturally in the middle and then one on each side of that. So I'm just going to work with that, because what we need to do is not have the same amount on all the lengths. So on the middle one, what I've done is I've added 5 beads to that, and I'm just going to push them all the way up there. So 5 to the middle one, and then on each side of that I've added 4 on each of them. And again, just push them all the way up. So you can see 5 in the middle and then 4 on each of the side ones. So just like this. Then what I'm going to do is just collect them together again and kind of try and make it so, because your beads here, the lengths will naturally want to sit on top of each other, you could say, instead of lying right next to each other, because obviously they're so bunched up right coming out from that knot. So try and make sure that the middle one, where you have 5 beads, is the one that sits on top. And I'm just going to reposition these into the same slot at the bottom, just like that. And just push them as far up as they'll go. Now what we need to do is then use our working cords to start incorporating them and get the design around the beads. So the first thing I want to do is just take my working cords here, and I want to bring them underneath all these holding cords in the middle and the beads there, and just over to the opposite side. So just bring it all the way over, and this just gets them in a more right position to then continue. I just find that this makes it so it sits a little bit nicer. So there we go. try and make sure your beads stay in this position. It might be a little bit fiddly throughout here, and it might still, it's going to be loose until we finish off this section, but just do your best. So it sits like this. I'm then going to take one cord at a time. The other one you can always put to the side, or in this case, because I'm working on the macrame board, I can just gently put it into a slot on the side there, just to keep it out of the way for now. Then what I want to do is grab, I'm just going to start with the one from the left side here. It's coming around the side of all these cords. Now, like I said, on the side here is where we have the 4 cords. What I want to do is go just above the top, sorry, the 4 beads. I want to go above the top bead there on the side, and then below the top bead in the middle one, crossing over, and I'm kind of coming downwards at an angle like this to the other side. Then before I completely position it, I need to come back underneath all the cords here, and then just try and hold it in place, because we then now want to get the cord in the right position. Then on the other side here, on the right side, the cord needs to go below the top bead as well. So just try and make sure of that. Like I said, it can be a little bit fiddly to begin with, because obviously all the beads are just quite loose here, like that. Then basically what you'll find is underneath the beads, you won't be able to see it, but your cord is going to be coming straight across. Now it's then coming up below the top bead on the left side. That's where we want it to come up. Then I'm going to again cross it over the top of the front of the beads to the opposite side, downwards at an angle. I want to bring it underneath all the beads, and as you can see, your beads are going to keep moving, just work with it best you can. And then I want to step down 1 bead, so that means in this case I'm going to make sure that the cord, just need it in the right position just like that, goes, so you can see we're kind of separating this into sections. We're stepping down 1 bead every time, so that means stepping down 1 in the middle, so it's now below the second bead from the top, and on the right side it's also below the second bead from the top. Then it's crossing straight underneath again. Now it's coming up below the second bead on the left side, crossing over the exact same way. Bring it underneath everything to get it to the opposite side again. Make sure you step down 1 bead in the middle and on the side, just like that. You can see that angle that we're getting on the cord, and again make sure it's coming up on the opposite side straight across. The last one we need to do, because obviously we're running out of beads, come down the exact same way, come underneath all the cords, and then these are the ones that are kind of moving around the most, and then just do the same thing, come below the bottom bead on the right side there, because there's now no more beads below them, and then straight across, and then we're coming out below the bottom bead on the left side as well. So it looks like this. Then what I'm going to do again, because I'm working on the macrame board, just going to bring this out to the side where it's sitting at already, and then just put it into a slot just temporarily there, just to kind of hold it in place, because if you just let it go, you could do that if you don't have the macrame board, but obviously it's going to loosen up, and then as we're working with it as well, it just makes it a lot easier using this. Now we need to use the other working cord here that we have left, do the exact same thing but mirrored. So this is coming from the right side. I need to bring this again above the top bead on the right side here. I bring it across, downwards at an angle, below the top bead in the middle, and then below the top bead on the left side. What I need to do is come back underneath, and I just need to make sure I avoid this cord that we already used, so I come underneath the beads. And then as I'm pulling this, make sure the cord lands in the right position. And you can tighten it a little bit to make sure the cords kind of nestle in between the beads rather than sitting too much on top of them. That also is going to tighten up the section with the beads, so once we're done they're not going to be too loose and move around too much. So it's coming straight across underneath. Now I'm coming up below the top bead on the right side, going down at an angle. Come across to the other side again, go underneath all the beads, and make sure that this cord lies across at an angle downwards there, below the next section of beads. So basically every time we're doing a wrap, you can say we're stepping down 1 bead on each of our lengths of holding cord. Come up, cross over, same way. Tighten a little bit along the way. Like I said, don't worry too much about that because it might and probably will loosen up while you're working with it still. We can go back and tighten it up more once we're done, before we completely finish it, like that. My last wrap here, cross at the same way in the same angle, go below the beads again, just to make sure you avoid. You can see that top, the wrap I just did before, that's just loosened up. So all you do is just tighten that a little bit before you then tighten up your next wrap that you're currently working on. That's just due to the nature of obviously the beads being loose. Makes it a little bit hard to work with, but we manage. So there we go, that's now the last wrap. And both my cords are now here at the bottom. So now what we need to do is seal this in place by making a square knot down here. So I need to release the other one. What you can do is kind of, if you let go too much, the cords will kind of come undone. If you're happy with this, that's fine. What you can also do, if you find that the cords up here have loosened up a little bit, you can take some chain nose pliers or some tweezers, go back in, and then just slowly tighten it up until we come down here and you're happy with how it sits and everything looks. So we have an even tension throughout. But then I'm just going to have to seal this in place using a square knot. So again, I take my left one over the cords in the middle, right one over that, and then up through the loop. So a regular square knot, and then just make sure that these are in place before I tighten this, so nothing's loosened up. And as I tighten it, it then just seals it all in place basically. So the beads are going to stop moving now. Finish off the square knot, just like this, and there we go. That's now the other side. So we have the beaded section done now. So I'm just going to do the same amount of square knots that I had on the other side to begin with. And then that's the point where we now reach. We need to then make and finish off the ring band and also get the correct size for the ring that we need. So I'm just making an equal amount of knots on both sides here, just like that. So now what I then want to do is just also get rid of one of my holding cords here, and I'm just going to do it on this side. I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side, but just show you on here, because we have 3, but that's a little bit much. I want to come down to 2. So what I'm actually going to do is just get rid of the middle one. But first of all, you can either just cut it off, but I feel a bit more comfortable just adding a little bit of glue. So just get whatever glue, if you can get one that dries clear. Just add just a little bit, just right around there below the very last knot, on top of this cord that we're going to cut off. Like that. And just let that dry for a bit. And then once you let it dry, I'm going to then take the other 2 back in the slot. And then I'm going to start off making another square knot here, like this. Just do the first half first, and this is going to then sit a bit on top of the glue. Then I'm going to take my scissor, take that cord that I want to get rid of, and cut it all the way down as close as you can get, like that. Then finish off the square knot, just like usual, by taking the cord from the other side. And then you've gotten rid of one cord there, so we're now down to 2 holding cords, and you just want to do the exact same thing on the other side as well. And then we can take it off the board and start working on the sizing. So I now got rid of one of my holding cords on each side here, and then this is where we're at. I've also just done an extra square notch on each side just to kind of get a little bit further down than where I finished off the cord. Then what we have here is the cords that are going straight out to the side. Those are the working cords that we've been using to make knots with, and then the ones coming straight out from the knots there, the ends, those are the holding cords. Now what we need to do is start completing this and actually making it into a ring, and also adjust the size, get the right size that we need. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to work on one side at a time. I'm going to bring the holding cords from the opposite side back underneath, around to the side that I'm going to be working on first. We're going to be doing the same thing on both sides, just taking one side at a time here, and then bring them around just underneath the working cord there. So these end up lying right next to the other holding cords. So when I lie them next to each other here, this is what it looks like. And try and make sure they lie next to each other and don't get too tangled up. So just like that. And then it can be a little bit fiddly just to begin with. What we need to do is kind of fasten this in place. Now I'm on the side here where I then need to start with to make my square knots from the right side first. You'll find that from one side, like I said, I start with my left side, the cord from the left side. I'm going to do that on this end, but on the opposite end you'll have to start from the opposite side. So just have a look at that on yours. Then I'm going to take my cord over all of these holding cords, all 4 of them now, that I'm keeping hold of. Then I'm going to take the other working cord right from the same place, go over the other working cord, underneath all the holding cords in the middle. So basically that means through the ring band, and then up through the loop here on this side. And just try your best to keep hold of it. Then I want to tighten this so it's going to sit right underneath the previous knot, just like this. And already now it's going to be much easier to work with. You can see it's fastened nicely. Then the holding cords we brought around are coming out kind of from inside the ring band there. Then I'm going to take cord from the other side to complete the square knot over, and then bring the other one over that through the ring band and up through the loop. And then tighten that to complete this square knot. So there we go, it's much easier now already. I'm just going to do another square knot here just to secure it more in place. And then what I'm going to do is go to the other side and do exactly the same thing. And then it's not till after that where they need to also then adjust the size. So I've just done the 2 square knots here just to make it more secure while we keep working with it. Flip around to the other side. I already have the 2 holding cords coming from that end. Those are the ones I brought around and we incorporated on that other side. And now I need to do the same thing. So I'll bring the holding cords from the opposite side around to this side that we need to work on now. And bring it underneath the working cord like that. And again on this side it'll just be a little bit fiddly for the very first knot. And here is then where I need to start with my left one again. Bring that over all these 4 holding cords. The other one goes over that, through the ring band to come underneath all the cords, and then up through the loop. And then tighten this all the way up underneath the previous knot that we did. Just like that. And then finish off the square knot. Go through the ring band. So it's the same principle as if you have a flat piece. It's just basically coming through the ring band because obviously we're trying to connect it as well. And then just do another one just to make sure it stays in place. One more to finish off the other half of the square knot. Just come up through the loop here, remember that. Right underneath the previous one and tighten nicely. So there we go. Now you'll be able to see what we have is the 2 working cords on each side are still just from that last square knot that we've done. Then we have all these cords coming around the bottom, all 4 lying next to each other. Those are all the holding cords. Then we have the holding cords on each side coming out in between some square knots there, kind of in the inside of the ring band. And this is where we're at now. So what I'm going to do is actually make a few more square knots on each side here. How many you need to make is up to and depending on the size of ring that you need. But I'm going to show you how we're then going to measure it compared to what size we need. So now that I made a few more square knots on each side, what I just want to make sure of as well is I'm making the same amount of square knots on each side there, just to keep it even. I just prefer that anyway. Then we just need to adjust and figure out the size. So you can either use a ring mandrel, or if you're just going to make it for you, use your finger, put it on, and then we need to find out if we've got the right amount of knots or if we need to make some more. So just right at the end where the very last knots you've done on each side, what I'm going to do is bring them around to the back here. If they meet up, then we have the right size. If they don't meet up just yet, you might have to make some more knots. Again, make the even amount on both sides so it becomes symmetrical. But this, I know now, is just the right size for the one that I need. So what we're going to do is, obviously this is far too big, we need to tighten this up. So to do that, we need to do one side at a time. So one side at a time here, where I'm grabbing the holding cords that are coming out inside, that we trapped there inside those knots. Just going to start on one side at a time, grab them. I'm going to grab onto the square knots, and then we need to basically just pull at these to tighten it up. Now, depending how tight you make your knots, it can be a little bit tricky, like that. I like to make my knots quite tight. I feel it has a bit of long-term hold. Then I need to go to the other side, do the same thing. Pull those, because you can see they're sticking out. So just pull them tight. So bring the two sides together basically, and just make sure it all sits nicely. So you'll be able to see, once your square knots, one from each side there, the very last one meets up just perfectly. That's a nice finish that we want to have. It makes it look nice and seamless, just like that. Then now is the time to start finishing off some of all these cords, because that's all that's really left to do. So all you want to do with that is, if you're using a synthetic cord like I am here, you can do it the way that I'm going to show you. If you're not, you might have to just use some glue instead of this. I'm just going to start with one side here, can help just flip it inside out a little bit. I'm then going to get some scissors. These are just some of the holding cords on the inside. I want to cut these down so I have about 1 millimeter or 2 left, sticking out from where they're coming out from. Then I'm going to take a lighter, and obviously it's a naked flame, so be careful doing this, and it gets a bit hot as well. I'm going to just singe those ends down and then just press them in. And that finishes off the ends, but it also seals them in place, because obviously if you don't seal them like that, you could end up pulling them out as you're wearing the ring. Do the same on the other side with the other holding cords. Then as for the working cords down here coming out from the square knots, all I'm going to do with them is the same principle, cut them down so we have about 1 millimeter or 2 left, and then take my lighter and just singe down the end, and then just press it in. Same principle, we've now finished off the ends and also sealed them in place. Do the same with the others, and then we got rid of them all. And once you've done that, you have your finished ring. So now that I got rid of all the excess cords here, all the way around as you can see, then we have the finished ring, and this is what it looks like. So you get this really nice effect of the beads on top with the cord zigzagging, crisscrossing there on top of them. And then we have the nice ring band all the way around, and it's really nice and comfortable to wear as well, and it's a nice and easy one to make as well. So there we go. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial and found it useful, and thank you very much for watching. Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to make this 3D triple row goddess macrame bracelet. And this is what it looks like. So it looks like this from the side. And then from the front, you have this effect going across. This is why I call it a 3D effect, because I kind of feel like, because of the